Mm. Hey, folks. Happy Wednesday. I'm always excited to be live with you and hope you're all doing well. If you're here with me today, let me know. If you don't let me know you're here, I don't know you're here. So I would definitely like to say hello if you're here with us today. I really can't believe I've been saying this the last few times I've gone live. I can't believe that we are at the end of the year. We're at December. This year really just flew by, and it was just full of experiences and lessons. And what's kept me just so full is being able to be here with you and with all of my guests um, on this show over the last, gosh, I think it's been 9 or 10 months. So all right. I'm just going to give it another moment. If you're here with me, just let me know so I know you're here. And definitely would like this podcast to be interactive. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and I will take a look at them. So I am going to go ahead and get started. And thank you for all of you who are here with us today. I'm Grace Redman, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who have overcome challenges and created amazing. Today, my talented guest is Nadeen Shatara. Nadeen is a Palestinian-Syrian-American from San Francisco. She's currently working as a legal recruiter and has been for the last 5 years both in the Bay Area and New York. She graduated with a degree in psychology and began her career at a small startup before transitioning her career to the legal industry. And I am going to welcome Nadeen here with us right now. Hey, Nadeen. Good afternoon to you because you're in New York.
Hey, Grace. How are you doing today?
I'm good, honey. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we kind of connected earlier in the year, and I really enjoyed our chat and conversation. And you had just so many amazing nuggets of wisdom. I said, girl, you need to come on. You need to be
You're so sweet.
heard. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And what was something that was exciting for me when we met, finding out that you were doing legal recruiting and having, me being in the recruiting industry and having the agency for the last 22 years, I'm like, oh, we have a lot to talk about. That's always, something that I love to talk about. And the other thing I love is that you went from the Bay Area to New York.
Yeah,
And that
which was a big transition for me, for sure.
right. And I can't imagine that being an easy transition, especially, being so grounded here. And I kind of wanted to touch on that. What was that like for you leaving, the Bay Area, this large community, and going, to New York? If you can kind of just speak on that for us for a minute.
Yeah, definitely. So I had moved away from the Bay Area before, but for school, which is a very different experience, at least it was for me, moving there as a student versus an adult. And I'm sure, I come from a Middle Eastern background. Of course, my parents would have loved for me to stay in the Bay Area. So that was definitely a transition. But I got lucky. I was at a firm that gave me every opportunity and, made the transition work-wise seamless. I had a few good friends in the area, which I was fortunate enough to have that,
For sure.
really, made me feel comfortable and made me feel like I had a home, away from my actual home. And it's been over 2 years, and I enjoy my life here. I feel like I've built a life here, and so it's been great. It was definitely a transition period, but we're definitely out of it at this point. But it's been good.
That's awesome. I love New York, and I only recently visited back in May 2018 before, much before the pandemic, and I fell in love. And the reason I wanted to visit is because whenever I meet people, they're like, "Oh, are you from New York?" And I'm like, "No, but I want to go and find out why you're asking me that." It's just there's so much energy, and it's so dynamic. And how do you navigate kind of that? It feels like it never sleeps, it never stops. How do you navigate that? Because we need to take that pause. How do you take a pause when everything around you is just spinning well, not that it's spinning, but it's going so fast?
Yeah, there was an adjustment at first for me, I think. My work generally is pretty fast, so my life goes fast, but I'm not a morning person by any means. And so shifting to kind of start my day earlier and be able to organize myself better. And then also realizing that there needs to be a separation, especially over the past 2 years where many of us have been working from home or partially remote. Excuse me. We need to find a separation between home and work. And so for me, it's, most nights I go on a walk. On the weekends, I am not indoors, every opportunity I get. So kind of creating situations where you can get away from the busyness and step away from kind of the chaos that is New York, but also life in New York, and just people constantly moving and things constantly needing to be done. Finding things that you enjoy that create that separation.
And what are you talked about not being a morning person, but then being in New York, you realize like, okay, now I got to get organized. What's something that you do in the morning to help you kind of set the tone for the day?
So I guess this has nothing to do with work. This is just something I enjoy, but I make sure my entire, living situation is clean and organized. I don't like to start my day with dishes in the dishwasher, dishes in the sink. So I wake up, I make my coffee, and while I make my coffee, I clean the space around me because that makes me feel calm and settled. And then I can kind of set my intentions for the day, and then writing a list of everything I would like to get accomplished that day. 90% of the time, half of that list doesn't get done. But the fact that I'm setting out to do it, it'll get done the next day or the day after that when I can.
Absolutely. And that's huge, is a setting intention. And I'm definitely a big list writer as well. And it feels so good. Like when I write the list and I cross things off. And I mean, who really gets the whole list done? I read somewhere where they said, write 3 things down instead of the 10 things, write 3, because you're more than likely to get those done. And then you go to the next thing on your list. And I could totally relate to what you said about having everything around you organized. So start the day. That's totally me. And I was telling my son the other day, I don't know if you've any of you have watched this video, if you've seen this video. It was a very high ranking military official was speaking. He was a keynote speaker at one of the graduations. And he said, the one thing to do to know that your day is going to be success is make your bed in the morning. And I mean, this is like a very high-ranking one of our, I don't remember who it was, but if you look it up, military official, make your bed. He talks about the science behind it. How when you make your bed, you're completing one task, you feel good, and then it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And as silly as it sounds, there's definitely a science behind that. There's psychology behind it.
Definitely. I mean, I'm someone who doesn't like clutter in general. I like spaces clean. I can't get my day organized work-wise or, task-wise if things around me need to get done. It's just kind of an added anxiety and an added thing that I'm adding to the ongoing list that's, I think, in all of our minds, of what you need to get throughout the day. And something looking at you right in the face is really going to slow you down.
I agree. I agree with that. And so the organization is key in my environment as well. And the other thing I wanted to touch base on that you kind of talked about is success, and the people in our lives are key players. So tell me a little bit about that. What do you mean by that?
I guess what I mean by that is no one really gets to where they are without having people there to support them, without having people to kind of bounce ideas off of and challenge yourself in a way. I'm fortunate enough. I have good friends and colleagues, people who have been mentors or are becoming mentors right now who, ask me the hard questions, who encourage me to go after the next job or the promotion. I also have people within my industry that have gone on similar paths as me that, I look up to. I have people outside of my industry that can bring a fresh perspective because they don't know the legal world or whatever it might be. And I think having those people in your life only create more success, only, give you something to aspire to. I think what goes along with that as well is representation within your field. We talk about culture, and I come from a Middle Eastern background. Meeting you recently, but having heard your name from, people in our community, knowing that, like, wow, look at this other Palestinian woman who has made a career, who has been successful in the recruiting industry. And I find that so important, and surrounding yourself with that and having people in your life that can speak on their experience that would so closely relate to mine.
I agree. And that's why I love, love doing this, show and bringing on incredible people like yourself to inspire, because we're not represented very often. And you never know who's watching, who may, want to step out of the box, and do something different. And, having you here and all the other incredible people who've come on, that's inspiring.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
and that help, like you said, that does help create success. And I do agree, we can't do it alone. I thought I could, many years ago, because that's how I was conditioned. Like, you do it alone, and when you do it alone and all by yourself, you are this like amazing person, and bullshit.
Right.
You know, there's no one that can create success alone. We need community and the people around us. And so I really love how you spoke to that. And something that's been resonating with me, to let me know if this resonates for you. It's like they say we're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. What do you think about that?
I think that's incredibly accurate. Moving to New York, I think I've surrounded myself with new people, and I've seen that shift. And I think there is a mindset in New York, especially in certain industries. There's a competitiveness to it. There is, a lot of challenges and hurdles you have to face, and it's the market's just saturated. And for me, my mindset shifted when I kind of surrounded myself with these new people, in that I was thinking more business minded. I was able to focus on different things in my career, different aspects, and think about them in different ways, and figure out what I like the most out of it, to then take my career to the next level and in the direction that I eventually want to.
Right. I agree. And that's something, and everybody brings something to the table. All the people, in our lives do. And something that's really huge for me, what you just touched on, is mindset. And mindset is so important. And yeah, everyone's like, okay, whatever, think positive. Yeah. And I know we're not always going to be in that positive space. There's going to be, moments. However, at the end of the day, the reality is our thoughts do create our reality. And where do I want to be? Do I want to be in the mindset that everything sucks? Or do I want
Right.
to be in the mindset of like, you know what, we got this, let's do this. What's the solution? Where
Yeah.
can we go? What's the vision? How can we expand? How can we create? Because just saying those things makes me feel better.
Right. Right. How do you reframe, your current perspective to make this a positive situation? If you're not happy in whatever space you're currently in, how do you make it a positive situation? How do you get everything you can out of it to make it positive and bring whatever it is into the next phase?
That's right. And, I've said this a few times this week. There's nothing that's happening to you. It's happening for you. It's happening for
Right.
you. Even if the most shittiest thing is happening for you, and then just being, okay, you feel it, and then step back. Okay, what's the lesson here? And how
Right.
did I contribute to this too? Because we have to take accountability for our behavior as well. And that's what I love about surrounding myself with like-minded people. They call you out,
Yeah,
and they say,
absolutely.
you know what, Grace, this is where you're at. You're not seeing things clearly. This is, where I'm seeing it from the inside out. So I love that. I love
It's
that I have a friend that can be like, hey, call me out anytime.
it's nice. I think everyone needs that. Someone who's going to kind of check you and be like,
Right?
what are you stepping into?
Right.
I think I have friends that definitely have called me out, and I've wanted to, blow something off or whatever it might be. And they're like, wait, let's take a step back and let's see how, like, you can work with this situation. I
Mhm.
know I have older brothers that, they have no problem, getting me in a place where I'm not negative or bashing a situation or not taking advantage of a situation, because everything's an opportunity.
Yep.
And like, yeah, sometimes we are put in bad situations that are out of our control. The only thing we can control is how we're going to react to them. How are we going to take that situation? Because at some point we can't keep blaming the situation on our reality, or our reality on the situation. We have to make a choice on like how we're going to handle it, how we're going to deal with it, and make it a reality that
Mhm.
we want.
And you said a word, blame. And there's, so many, and I'm sure I've done this too, early on until I took accountability. It's like you blame everything around you. Like I blamed my parents, and I love you, parents. I blamed, my job, or I blamed, like I blamed everything outside of me because that was what I was, that's what I learned to do.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes we do that unconsciously when there's no, there's really no one to, there's no blame. Like you have to go within yourself and say, okay, how did I contribute to this? Where can I make the change? And I love how you said there's opportunity in everything. And let me tell you, there is an opportunity in everything.
absolutely. Yeah, there's no situation that you can't gain something out of. You just have to look at it in a different perspective. And I think the people around you will be impactful in those situations.
Which brings me to achieving our goals, getting to where we want to go. There's always going to be obstacles. I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Right.
However, what you've done great. I mean, and I know the industry. I mean, 90% of recruiters fail. They don't make it. That's the real that's true. And you've made it, for years. So what were some of the factors that helped you succeed and overcome the obstacles that came in your way?
Um, I could talk about this till my ears bleed, or till your ears bleed, really. But
Same girl.
the people around me, I
Mhm.
think I really fell into recruiting. I knew I wanted a forward facing role. I was not in the legal industry or doing recruiting at all. I fell into it, and I think I took the job initially because I loved the people that I had met. And I was so lucky that I did, because I found a career in that. But beyond that, these were people that till this day are mentors for me, are giving me opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. My old director used to give me things that were frankly like way above my head. But she would sit down, she would walk me through them and help me understand and give me a different perspective on the strategy behind what we were doing. And that made me think about the next project in a different way. Um, and I think there were several opportunities that people gave me, not only my managers and my bosses, but people within my company, different departments, who would loop me in on marketing things and events. And it just gave me a different perspective. It got me to work with different people, and that's a big part of my job, is just being able to kind of communicate with people in the way they need to be communicated with, and understanding where they're coming from, and um, how to kind of best relay your message to mutually benefit each other.
Which brings me, back to, again, being pushed out of your comfort zone helped you by being surrounded by those people that were around you, mentoring you, being there for you in those
Absolutely.
moments where, I mean, which we all have doubt. in those moments where because anytime we go into something new, I'm sure it's scary. I know for me, like anytime I'm going to go into something new, regardless of how much experience I have, it feels a little scary. When you were in those moments of doubt or fear, how did you overcome that voice in your head?
I think just knowing, like, not every day is going to be this hard. I had the rewarding days. And the rewarding days for me in this industry are great. They're good. They're big wins, and I'm competitive, and I like the wins. And seeing those wins happen early on, I think, helped me kind of get through those rough patches where I was doubting myself or in an uncomfortable situation or putting myself out there. Knowing like, well, this is just going to get me to the next level. And then like that win is going to be all mine. I'm not sharing it with anyone else, you know? And, I mean, it was nice to be able to own things. And the more I did, the more I pushed myself, the more I got past those hard days, the more rewarding those good days were.
So what I heard you say was when you were in that doubt, you just went back and reminded yourself of the wins.
Yeah.
And that I love that, because you're right. And it's kind of like a cumulative effect. It keeps building. And then when you have that one, because you're right, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, our days are blessed. Well, 99%, but we're going to have that day. And then to look back and say, okay, like I had all of these amazing wins. I'm just going to move through this.
Yeah.
And
this is frankly something that one of my old coworkers, one of my mentors recommended I do. And the purpose was for my annual review because, it's corporate America and you get annual reviews. And she said, make a list of all your accomplishments every day. Add to an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, whatever you need to do, and write down your accomplishments. Go back through your notes and your checklists and pull it all together. And now I just do that. And like on the hard days or whenever I need reminding, why I'm pushing through the frustrations that happen in all of our jobs. And the day to day, I think, those remind me that, oh, well, I did it because like at the end of the year, this is the end result. And this is, that's the only way to get through it. And really, I do generally like my day to day. Of course, we have annoying tasks. All of us do that we don't necessarily want to do in our jobs. But I would say 90% of my job, I truly do love, and just remembering that when I have to do the annoying things or deal with a rough day or get through a challenging project.
You just kind of have that reframe, that you're right. And not all the tasks are difficult, and finding the beauty in those difficult tasks too, because there's a consequence, there's a result to it. And that really helped me too, because you're right. Our industry is not easy. It's not an easy industry, but the wins are magnificent.
Right.
And getting through, I used to say like, my job is I get rejected every day.
Right. But you can't take it personally, right? It's all business.
Exactly. And it was a number, and it's a numbers game. And I feel like that's sometimes how, and then again, there's really no rejection. That's how to look at life, is like every experience that we're having is moving us closer. And then we get to choose how we see that experience. And like you said earlier, we get to choose how we respond to that experience.
Right. And I think, I try to take that, not that it happens all the time, but in every aspect of my life, if I'm getting frustrated at a certain situation or a certain person, I just I can't control that person. They are their own person, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And I can only control how I'm reacting to it or how I feel towards it. And what I'm going to do back, really.
That's right. And so were you always that way? Were you always in that mindset where, okay, it's, I need to learn how to respond instead of react? Or did you grow into that? I know how to grow into that.
I definitely grew into it. I think, I think I'm young, right? Yes. But when I was younger, I think we're all a little reactive, and I think it's not fully understanding how we're feeling or how to communicate how we're
Mm,
feeling. Um, we feel like, and I think this is something I learned when I went into legal recruiting too, and I'm still learning and kind of working through every day, is you don't need to respond to everything immediately. You can take a step back from things. You can process things. You don't need to be reactive in situations. In my everyday work, if, I have certain people that like responses quicker than others, their expectation is just that. Um, and so every time I get an email, I automatically want to go and respond to it immediately. And I have to remind myself, wait, let me double check with, XYZ, or let me go back and look at my notes, make sure I'm including all the information that needs to be included. Let me make sure I'm giving a full picture here. They don't need a response within 5 minutes of sending their email. Like, I don't need to respond to every situation. I can take a step back. And I think more of us in more situations should ask for a moment to respond or react or think about things.
I agree. And when I started recruiting, 22 plus years ago, they conditioned us like you need to respond immediately. So I, for 20 plus years, I'm better now. Like I would respond immediately to everything, not only in the business but in the personal life. And so what happened, it was there were no boundaries.
Yep.
And then that, created stress and anxiety and burnout. And again, it's like, I started working for a company at first. Of course, they want you to respond to everything, but then I
Right.
took those, what I learned into my own business, and it wasn't, I did it for many years, but it burnt me out. And I think not only in business, but on our personal life, like you said, it's good to take a pause, and we don't have to respond to everything immediately. I think, we have our phones and we're used to, not what's the opposite of delayed gratification, instant gratification.
Immediate.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that way.
No, it doesn't. I know I get upset with my mom that every time we're having a conversation and her phone rings, she's immediately looking to respond. I'm like, they text you for a reason. Like, you don't need to respond right away. You don't need to react right away. You can take in the information, take in the situation, and make a plan. Think about it from all angles. I think we rush into split second decisions, or just in the moment decisions or feelings, and then we act on them, and I don't know that it benefits us. I think we can be more thoughtful and intentional going into things in your personal and professional life.
I agree. And so we all get triggered.
Right.
What's one thing that you do when you find when you find yourself triggered and you feel those emotions coming up and you want to react? What's something that helps you take that pause? Like, is there a self-talk? Is it, what do you do?
Um, I probably call one of my friends and I vent about it.
That helps
I
you?
don't know that there's any one thing that I do. I mean, I know in work, if I get an email that is off-putting and I want to react to it immediately, I know that I'm not going to respond to that email, even if it's
Mhm.
12 hours later, until I'm able to look at that email and I'm not feeling any sort of way, because I know that my tone will come out in the email.
That's right.
Um, and I don't think people, I mean, some people think about that, I do think, but I see people responding to emails where they're clearly frustrated or clearly annoyed, and it's not a good look, and your message comes
Mhm.
across as frustrated or annoyed. In my personal life, I'm probably more reactive than I'd like to be, but working on that every day. But you take a moment, and I kind of I I think I'm a passionate person, and I think probably the past 2 3 years I've got into a place where I'll just, if I'm arguing with my sibling or whatever it might be, like, I just don't engage. I'm like, this isn't the conversation I want to be having. Like, if we want to have this conversation, I'm happy to do it, but like engaging in this manner isn't going to be beneficial. It's not going to get us anywhere. We could talk in circles for hours.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should do a little more self-talk or like taking a breath, yoga.
We're all work in progress. We're all
Yeah.
work in progress.
Yeah.
And again, going back to what you're saying, like responding back, and you can feel the frustration, like it's all energy. It's energy.
Yeah.
And I love how you said, like, even if it takes 12 hours just to get into a place, to get into a neutral place. And one of the most powerful things I learned early on when I went back to get coach certified was the most powerful person in the room is a person that's most neutral.
Yeah.
That's not an easy place to be.
No, it is
but
not.
It's a very empowering place to be. And that's something that that's a game I play with myself, is to get into a neutral place. Try not to take things personal, which brings me to, the world that we grew up in. We were conditioned, and if this is different for you, let me know, to worry about what everybody says.
Yes. Yeah.
And for many, 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 many years, I worried about what everybody said, which put me in a loss of power. Instead of being in a neutral place, I was losing my power. And then eventually I realized, like, it doesn't matter what other people think. Once you step into your worth, it doesn't matter. Now, are we going to get triggered? Sure. I know we've talked about this before. How have you been able to kind of diminish that belief, like caring about what everyone thinks?
I like you said, it's a work in progress, yeah. Right? We grew up with a mindset and we grew up in a very small community, the Arab American community in the Bay Area. It seems like everybody knows everyone. I mean, you were best friends with a cousin of mine for, however many years. And,
I was?
I think so. I think finding the confidence in yourself and in your own life and what you're doing is a big part of that. I feel confident in where I'm at in my life. I feel confident in like where I'm at in my career. So people saying whatever they're saying, most people don't really know what's going on in my life or my day to day. So whatever they're talking about is superficial and really has nothing to do with me. And it's just the story of the hour at the end of the day. I mean, I'm sure there's some other gossip that'll come up tomorrow, that, whatever it might be. I think the other part of that is kind of getting to a place because, I think that feeling of like, oh, everyone's talking about you comes a little bit from our own families, right? Because our parents instilled this, like, we have to worry about what everyone else is thinking and what are people going to say, or what are, who's going to know about this or that. And then finding a place where, because I think growing up, or me personally, I was not 100% honest with my parents about, about everything.
Neither was I.
I don't think anyone was. They were a little bit old fashioned, and I think over the years, and as me and my brothers have grown up, we've got into a place where I don't hide anything from my parents. Mm-hmm. I don't feel the need to. And I think part of that is them kind of coming around to the culture and coming around to being parents to, teenagers and young adults. And, as we've grown up throughout the years, they've gotten more used to things that they didn't grow up with, things that my mom came to this country when she was 25 years old, as many of our other parents did. They came later in life. And the things we're raised with here and the opportunities and things we're involved in here aren't necessarily the same where they grew up. And so I think having that confidence in myself, knowing like whatever I'm doing is the right thing for me, and that's frankly not for anyone else to judge.
That's right.
But also kind of having that comfort with my family and knowing like they know where I stand. I know where they stand. I don't need to hide anything from them. And, not having like a judgment there. Like if you have your inner circle that's non-judgmental and supports you in whatever you're doing, all those outside voices and comments, I mean, they wash away. They don't,
They really
why are
do.
they going to affect you? These people, they're not close to you at the end of the day,
Mhm.
generally.
Mhm.
If they are, they probably shouldn't be, but you know.
Mhm. And
Um,
and I love how you said it's just it doesn't matter. It's going to wash away, and the next story will come up, and it doesn't even have really anything to do with you. And when we are in our worth and have that confidence, it doesn't matter because you know who you are. And I love that you said that. What was, I mean, and we grow into our confidence, I feel like, and it just gets,
yeah.
and I mean, we're going to have areas where, we're going to go back and forth sometimes. But what helped you step into your confidence? If there's someone watching right now and they're kind of struggling a little bit in that area and they're worrying about what people think and what they might say, what's something that you've said some great nuggets, but what's one more thing that you could share to help them step into their confidence of who they are?
Um, I think I think allowing people to help me through whatever phase and transition, and then accepting and trusting that when I was doing a job and they were telling me I was doing a job, that was actually the case. I don't think I would have got into the place I am without some guidance from people. I think we all struggle with taking a helping hand sometimes. Um, but without those people, reinforcing that and um, me feeling like I've made progress and being able to see that progress on paper and in the data and in the numbers, um, that really gave me confidence that I don't think I had before. Just knowing I'm successful at something and good at something, and being able to believe it when people are saying that too, because I think we always second guess ourselves. We're doubtful of our own skill set. Um, but I think we can all bring something to the table. I think it's just
Absolutely.
figuring out what your specific skill set is, because not everyone's going to have the same additive additive experience.
Hmm. And you're right. I think we all can bring something to the table. Absolutely. We all have a gift. And when we can, kind of, I always say this, go back to self and sit with ourselves and talk. I like how you said, like, talk about the wins instead of just, once a year, once a quarter, once every 6 months, talking about those wins, maybe every day writing down what was a win, what have I accomplished? Because I like how you said that. And you've been consistent throughout saying, like, I had this experience. I saw my results that gave me confidence to go to the next step and to the next step. And
Right.
so just kind of always looking back and seeing how far you've come, how far we've come can help build that confidence.
Absolutely. And then when you are in those challenging situations, kind of getting through those builds your confidence as well.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I mean,
you know,
as I look back now on my life and I'm like, wow, I've been through so much. And there's times where you like think, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. That was so difficult. And then you get through it and then you get through the next thing. And then you just kind of gather this wisdom and this experience that only life can give you. Like, you
yeah.
can't learn some of this in text, but you can't.
No, absolutely not. And especially, I mean, in recruiting, none of it's in textbooks. It's
Oh,
really just getting to know people and figuring out what makes that particular person tick.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
not a hard skill. You just go with it.
right. But the thing is not it's like it is a unique skill. Like you said, everyone has their
Right.
talent and their um and to be able to hold space for people and make them feel comfortable because we're working with their livelihood.
Yeah.
That's that's a tremendous gift. And I want to congratulate you for, being in the industry for as long as you have. That's a huge accomplishment, sister.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, look at right back at you.
Oh my goodness, thank you. It's been incredible. So I'm gonna just say, what's one thing that inspires you?
Women like you,
Oh, thank
honestly.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so inspired by you and your generation and just all the incredible people in our community. And that's why this has been a gift and blessing for me to be able to connect with you and the other incredible people. It's like I think we focus on the celebrities and the stars, and they're amazing too. But we forget all of the people that surround us that are doing incredible things every day. So I appreciate you and thank you. And I'm so grateful that you joined me today and we got to have this chat. Thank you so much,
Me
Nadeen.
too. Thank you for having me on, Grace. This
Pleasure.
is great.
And if there's someone who may be watching now or on the replay that is interested in kind of recruiting, is there a way they can find you if they want to chat with you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Nadeen Shatara. You can see my name in the video, I believe. So please feel free to add me and reach out.
Yeah, and then I'll also add Nadine's name down there on the bottom. And so thank you so much for having a real and vulnerable conversation. That's really what we want to do, is just open up that portal to, like, you know what, we can be real, we can take off the masks and be loved and love ourselves for who we are. And I think that's the message here. All right, sweetheart. I appreciate you and thank you for your time. Have a fantastic evening in New York. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us. I see Brandy was here and Sunny. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate you all. And if you enjoyed this podcast, definitely share it with those people that you love. You never know what they can get from it. And if you enjoyed it and shared it, rate it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you a fantastic week ahead. All right. Take care.